There is, yeah. Theresa May held a hand of compromise out to Jeremy Corbyn yesterday. So,
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
but the Brexiteers are up in arms about it. So, whether that's going to help her position out or the UK's position out, I don't know. But it's it's a move in the right direction, and the pound actually had a bit of a surge because of it, didn't it? I don't know if you saw that with the pound, but it actually did start to move quite significantly to the upside from the
Yeah,
lows.
it has. Yeah.
Yeah, because of that. And how did it do against the euro? The euro's not too bad, stabilized to a degree. Um, but it's just, I mean, they've got more indicative votes today. They're trying to, sort something out. But I just don't know how they're gonna. I don't know how they're gonna get through it. I don't know how they're gonna change things because nobody seems to want to vote for anything specific.
No.
There doesn't seem to be a majority for anything, and they don't even want to bring it back to the British people just to sort out the deadlock in Parliament. So
Yeah,
I
why
just
would that be? I mean, is this a stubborn parliament, or are they thick as bricks, or what is
um
it?
I think to a degree, saying that they're thick as bricks is probably closest to the truth.
Mm,
It's that they just don't seem to have a genuine leader at the minute. Because even the I guess the leader in waiting, which would be Boris Johnson, he's such a snake. He's not an honest kind of stand up kind of character. He doesn't really have a backbone when it's necessary, but he's full of it when he's very good at stabbing someone in the back, it seems. But
yeah, look, you can't really say, I suppose, that she's not a leader, because she kind of is taking the lead, but it's from her way or the highway point
that's
of
the
view,
problem.
and that's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very Trump-esque, and
yeah.
that it can't work.
No, well, that's the big issue. The big issue is that the um, as you say, that the belief that she has in her own way forward is unbreaking, and
Mm.
it's just that's where the leadership starts to break down. I mean, yes, she is leading, but at the minute, I don't know what she's leading because the Tory party are breaking up. If we were to crash out of the EU, don't be surprised to see the UK break up as well. So it's a really difficult one because everybody's very sympathetic to Theresa May, and to a degree, I get it. She had a very 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 difficult job to start with, but I I to a degree lack a little bit of sympathy for her because I still think she's in charge. She's got the job. So yes, it was a very, very difficult thing for her to do, but she wasn't equipped evidently to take it on. And I feel for her because there was nobody else. But that's as far as my kind of my sympathy for her goes. I don't sympathise with the position that she's put herself in, which is what I believe she's done. I don't believe that she's been put in this position. I think she's put herself in it, not because she had to take the job, because she probably did, but more for the fact that the way that she's handled this whole process has been awful, even to the point that she tried to bully Parliament 3 times, and that would have been absolutely fine if she'd done that a year ago in the picture. But the fact that she's done it at the very, very last minute is the worst possible show of judgment that I think we've seen for quite some time. I mean, obviously Cameron calling the referendum in the first place was a terrible show of judgment, but I just think that she's shown a real lack of judgment. And to be fair, just like anybody that is successful has, she's had no luck either. I think she's had no fortune. She's made some bad choices, but I think she's had very very little fortune on her side. And as I say, I think anybody that's been successful. I was reading a really interesting article about Google the other day and how the two founders almost sold the business for $100,000, but the investor thought it was too high a price in the end, so he pulled out. Um,
Whoops.
and, and they, as I say, the rest is history. But that's just a lucky moment for those two guys.
Yep, sure.
in the Google story, and I think that's really the thing for Theresa May. She
Yeah,
needed a bit
everything's
of a
been shite.
yes. She needed a break of some sort. Everybody needs a break. You know, there's not, I don't think, one story in history that doesn't have something which, you know, just manages to turn in your favour. So, and you know, it's no different to trading in many respects. We are, you know, in an industry which does rely on analysis, good technical analysis, good fundamental understanding, and good market understanding. I suppose more importantly, but you still need luck. You know,
Yeah,
there's
and
still luck.
even then, with all of those stars aligned, it can still turn to shite very quickly.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. It can still turn against you, which is obviously, you know, why we put protection in place. But there's no two ways about it. Every industry needs it. Every job needs it. Every period that you have in your life needs it. You know, you can be floating on perfectly well, but all of a sudden things can go pear shaped, because that's just the nature of life, I guess. But she's just had none of it. So that's the you know the only other caveat that I'd put to my lack of sympathy for her, but I do have a lack of sympathy for her, and the No Deal Brexit is the most worrying. And Julian said something quite interesting, I thought, a few weeks ago, when he was saying that he is relying on the fact that common sense will eventually prevail, and every now and again it doesn't, and I'm concerned that actually it's not going to prevail this
This is one
time.
of those times, yeah.
Yeah, and to a degree, you know, there's points of this country that I just don't recognise anymore. It's just that I don't recognise the vitriol, and I suppose it's always been there, but maybe it's managed to be suppressed, and that is some of the problem potentially with political correctness. As much as I don't want to hear people spouting racism, or you know, or vitriolic comments, or prejudice to others, maybe this is the backlash when you suppress that kind of language. Maybe you need it out in the open. You know, if we're in a free speech, let people get it out their system potentially, and maybe that will help us move forward. I don't know what the answer
Yeah.
is, but while we
No,
try and
nothing's
create,
ever changed on that score. You know, it's all about communication. Always has been,
yes,
always will be. Any
yes,
relationship that you have with anything, anybody, any business, it's all about communication. Always has
yeah.
been.
Well,
And
maybe
if
that's
that's
what we're
not
missing.
there,
Maybe.
if that's not there, you get all sorts of issues.
Well, this is the thing, because you can't suppress it, can you? And maybe that's what's
No.
going on here, is that we're just now bubbling up and seeing all these ugly aspects to society that have been suppressed
Yep.
to this point. Maybe they're all just coming to the surface at one point, because you know, when they showed the Brexit rally and the people that were leading the rally, and I'm not saying this about all Brexiteers, because I'm sure some of them are good people, but there's a guy called Tommy Robinson, who was the leader of the National Front, and you know, he's kind of talking to millions of people out there, and millions of people are going along with what he's saying, and you know, it's a real, as I say, it's a sad state of affairs. I think you've always, you know, I've always kind of suspected this country had an underbelly, but I think the underbelly is a lot bigger than I thought, when it comes down to intolerance. And yeah, it's sad, mate. It's really sad. And actually,
Very.
well, what this could do is not only bring a lot of these opinions and thoughts and opinion and actions by people, but it can also destroy the country's economy. You know, we could also be in a real mess when it comes down to you know, how we fund the things that we need to fund in this country. You know, there's so many other issues that aren't Brexit, but they're all Brexit
That's what
related.
I'm going to say. And what isn't being addressed whilst Brexit is going on? I mean, what is Parliament doing every
Yeah,
other day?
yeah,
If Brexit wasn't about, they'd probably get some work done. But you know,
yes,
there must have been a hell of a lot of time wasted in Parliament, and I can't see how the country's actually ticking over properly. Bureaucrats must be just running the place, and I guess they normally do. That's true,
yes,
but
yes.
you know, the big issues aren't being addressed, I wouldn't have thought, outside of Brexit.
Well, isn't that interesting? You know what you say, because yeah, as you say, the civil servants are basically running the country, and they always do. But it's a stark reminder that the politicians do very little.
Indeed.
You know,
Why
they
do we
make
need them? So certainly in Australia, we've got 3 levels of government, and I reckon you can do without 3.5 of them,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Anyways,
back to
how do we
trading,
trade
mate.
this,
So,
mate? Yeah.
FTSE 100, how to trade that today? Difficult, really, because we are at levels of resistance up here, but the market has been so strong, and it's difficult because I don't really want to be looking against the strength of the trend. But by the same token, we are, as I say, at a fairly significant point here. We're finally at this trend line, and the inverted head and shoulders doesn't look as yet that it's played out. So that there's I think two possibilities here, and certainly if the head and shoulders was to break out along this area, then we're going to get through the trend line and back up to this level here. So that level there is at 7,500-ish. So we're at currently at 7,300. So could be another 200 pips before it comes back. And when it comes back, the suspicion at that point will be a retest of this area and then go again. So at this stage, it looks like the market has the potential to turn around the bear market, if you like, and turn it right back into a healthy bull market. Which, as I say, I find quite astonishing. This is a monthly chart, which we see the lower low here, and we're not getting our first lower high so far. That's not the indications so far. Obviously, things can turn very, very quickly, and if we were to get that lower high, then maybe we do start getting some bearish price action and a genuine trend to the downside. But the concerning thing is we're almost 10 years in to the rally here. This is May 2009, and since that's at that point, we've had no bear market. There was a lower low there, but that lower high got swallowed up again. We come straight back again. This area here was Brexit related. This whole area here was Brexit related, so that came down there again, made a lower low, but then just bounced straight back up again. Here we made a lower low, but made a equal high again, so it got swallowed up there again. So we've had no kind of point where we've hit a genuine bear market. And if it's going to happen, you'd think that this would be one point, and finally probably maybe that 7,500 but becomes another possibility. But if it gets through this particular area to 7,500, you'd suspect that it's going to be quite a lot to stop to put the brakes on this charge to the upside. And I've got a question: what's going to create it? What's going to? We are, as I say, we're at the end of the business cycle, or very close to a normal business cycle time. 10 years in, we have lower growth coming through, no recession, so we do have lower growth. So I think a bit of an easing is more likely. But what we do have is an environment which has been incredibly accommodative to stocks, and monetary policy has been incredibly accommodative to stocks. So that's helped things out. But the problems that it's going to create at some point by printing all this money and effectively keeping the stock market buoyant and going afloat on what is I guess just kind of just lies. I mean, it's just not. It's not based on anything. It's not based on any true foundation. I suppose that's the best way to put it. It's not really based on any true foundation. So I have to wonder.
Is anything anymore in the financial markets?
I don't think it is.
That's a great question. It's all perceived, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's nothing really backing anything up.
No.
And we've been like this for a long time. The very fact that we can sit here and trade on our computers is aiding and abetting that situation. We're not producing one thing except a little bit of excitement and disappointment at times.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And how does the world tick over on that at the end of the day? Realistically?
Yeah.
And I know the market's there to facilitate trade, the currency market, but at the end of the day, outside of that, it's really speculation.
Yes, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. It is complete speculation, and that's as you say, that's what we're up to here. but I don't
Good
know,
run.
and I don't know what's.
At the end of the day, where does it end?
I don't know, mate, but because what it comes down to is what's going to be the next reality check, doesn't it? I mean, what's going
Yep.
to give, the last reality check was some prime mortgages and banks going bust and all this kind of thing. But that the market managed to kind of find itself a little bit of a bottom and push forward. So ever since, as I say, 2009, we've been on a bit of a tear to the upside with very few breaks, and the breaks seem to be vicious moves to the downside with a gradual move back to the upside, and the status
Yeah,
quo
just continuous
continues.
new highs. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So maybe that's where we're headed. Maybe we just got to accept that the market doesn't really care about us. Well, what's interesting is that there's the rally that's going on with the pound. I think, when we're seeing what's happening out there, this does seem to be something which is based on genuine price, at least, because the pound is incredibly cheap down here. They're just waiting for that deal. So yet again, they get a day where market makers get a day where they could possibly get a sniff that the pound, that the UK economy is going to start being buoyant again, because there's going to be a decision in Parliament with Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn coming together, and the pound is rallying off the back of it. Now, I don't know whether we're going to get technical scenarios and situations here, but this price down here is starting to look a lot more attractive now, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, and the daily chart still is giving us a perfect cycle.
Yeah,
It's still trending long. So
yeah.
and as I continued to say, after I don't know, weeks ago, how can you think of trading this short at the moment?
Absolutely.
Really, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, really, I've got my queue in the rack entirely at the moment. I'm just not comfortable trading anything that's got to do with Brexit. So I'm glad I'm short the euro, but outside of that, I don't want to enter the market on those on
Sure.
the underlying.
Euro dollar.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's have a quick analysis of that, actually, because I was looking at this euro yesterday with you, and yesterday we put in something of a hammer down here. It's not a very convincing one, but it is a hammer all the same. How do we
Oh,
treat this
look,
now?
I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't think it was going to bounce here.
Yeah,
It really is at a place where you'd be expecting a bounce and a decent one, to be fair.
yeah,
Because that level's getting to the point, and I think we said this yesterday. Certainly, I've said it since that if this goes below this level, and we were talking about it yesterday, if it
yes,
breaks this level short, there's a bit of a hole underneath it. So
yeah,
it's pretty crucial for the short to medium term prospects of euro dollar that it stays above this level. So
yes,
there'll be people buying into that for sure, and on the reverse side of that, there'll be people who are short taking profits. Certainly, I've tightened my stops. I haven't taken any more off. Oh, I did. I took a little bit. No, I didn't. I didn't take any more off the table. But the stops have been tightened. So effectively, it's the same thing, I suppose.
right,
There will be liquidity where my stops are.
yeah,
So that's going to be a rally, of its own accord as soon as the stops are hit.
yeah.
So you've got to be thinking that there's a bounce here, and that could be quite substantial because it's
Well, should
been
we
a
have a look?
substantial fall.
Shall we look at your charts and see
Sure,
what you're looking at for the day, if there's anything else that we can see?
absolutely. And bearing in mind what I've just said, I'm really not interested to get into the market too much on the euro or the pound. But this is the euro chart. That's the 30-minute chart. But the daily chart probably doesn't tell us as much as we need to know about this level. This level is, as I just said, pretty much the last line of defense from a support point of view until, there's a few intermediate levels in here that aren't really that crucial, but I see the biggest level around about the 109.50 level, which is here. That white line. No, sorry, that's this red line here. So I see that we were broken down below that, and we've broken down below it again. So that really is the only, to me, logical level of support underneath this, and it's not that strong either. So this is in terrible trouble, in my opinion. If it really starts to get away here, it can go to here, and it can go further than that, in my humble opinion. So that's why I believe that there's no such thing as has to, but you would really think that there has to be some buyers here, and there has to be some sellers getting out of their positions, or at least partial out of their positions. And to not see this rally would be a huge surprise. And I won't say the end of the euro, but it'll kind of be bye-bye euro for now, in my opinion. So that's why I think this has really got to rally. And when I think it's got to rally, I'm thinking, of course, of a significant resistance level. And the first one is the weekly pivot. And that's why I've tightened my stops above the weekly pivot, because if it gets beyond here, it's starting to get into reversal territory. And if it's going to reverse, then I just want to lock as much money in to this trade as I can. There's two thoughts going through my mind here, and one is give it as much space as you can, but the other is okay, how far will it bounce off this support level? And as I say, that could well be substantial. It could come right back to where 113.60 again, which is beyond where I got into the level, into the trade. So that wouldn't surprise me one little bit. And
I suppose.
Sorry, mate.
Well, just that we've got some numbers on Friday, haven't we? I suppose maybe the speculation of those numbers, because there's been a bit of overexcitement with the dollar actually recently. If we think of the pound and the euro, maybe as we wait for those numbers, the euro does start to rally a bit here.
NFP, you mean?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, look, the dollar's a bit weaker today, obviously. I'm not a fan of NFP anymore. It just doesn't float my boat anymore.
I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right. But the last one was quite incredible, wasn't it? 20,000.
Yeah. Still don't believe that.
No, it's something not quite right, is there?
That doesn't sound right to me. But what happened to the market then? What was that day? I can't remember. You would think that on that number the market would move absolutely dramatically.
Yeah.
Did it?
I've got a feeling. You're right. I'm not sure it did. It certainly didn't break down. It certainly didn't break down. You know, it didn't do what you would have thought it would do. I mean, I'm talking the stock exchange, because that was a terrible number for the US economy, and the stock exchange didn't seem to bat an eyelid. And that's what I'm talking about. You know, we're living through these times where things are just starting to slow down. Are they turning? We don't know, but they are slowing down for sure. We get a number like that, and the stock market continues to rally. I mean, it's just it's kind of taxi tip time, isn't
it? Yeah, hang on 2 secs. March 8th it was. Friday. So there it is there. What crossed my mind? Euro dollar. So there is that NFP candle right there, 4-hour candle.
Right.
And did nothing, because immediately after it closed, it got wiped out.
Yeah.
I guess you could say it started a trend. You could say that. I'd have to agree with that statement.
Well, I guess so, but then you don't know what else happened in between times, do you?
Yeah.
It might have started something.
It seems we got through an entire day of consolidation before that happened. So yeah, what else happened? I really don't know. I'll have a look. What happened on the Monday? News-wise, we had retail sales out, which were good numbers for the dollar.
Right.
So you try and work that out. I don't know. Don't know.
Well, I think retail sales, I'd probably treat it as a soft marker with other metrics. You know, it's probably the start of how you start. How you start to analyze things with the dollar, but maybe not.
You know what I've just noticed?
What's that?
Now, since we've been talking about it, have a look where price is right now.
With the euro?
Yeah. and
Yep.
that was the NFP candle right there.
Oh, let me see that. Mm.
It's exactly there. That's the NFP candle
Right.
Oh, sorry, that's the NFP candle right there.
Yep.
Oh, sorry,
Yep.
it's earlier in the day, and that's where price is right now.
Wow. Yeah. So we're right back to where we started. So.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I don't know if it's significant at all, but you know, it's
well, it may be if we get another bad number.
May well be. Okay. Yeah, look, I really don't take that much notice of NFP anymore. I must be honest. It's something that I've noticed over a long period of time that we don't seem to move the market as we used to, and a lot of that's due, I guess, to the fact that it's always, you know, within 1 or 2% of the 200,000 mark. When I say always,
Yes.
generally hanging around that 200,000 mark.
Yes. So maybe the point with this is that we've been in such a low volatility environment, and because the numbers haven't been particularly volatile, we haven't seen NFP actually being that significant, and I guess things, just as they start to form a trend, those trends can change, because the last number was potentially, maybe that's such a jolt that actually we do actually start to see some significance now in the change of NFP. So it's possible that that from here on in, certainly for a while, we have to pay more attention to it, because, as I say, you know, we are going through some strange times. You know, we've got this China thing still hanging over us. That hasn't completed itself. Paul was talking about Brexit the other day as a potential driver as well, and it is for the FTSE. You know, particularly if the pound strengthens significantly, we will see the FTSE 100 probably start to come off somewhat. You know, he's had a pretty you know, a decent time off the back of the weakness in the pound. But it's really about China and America, because if we see those two economies slowing down, that means the rest of the world will certainly stand up and catch some of the weakness there. So
Absolutely.
it's possible that NFP does start to come into fore. What I quite like about that chart you've got there as well is the clear area for a neckline, a clear left shoulder, and a clear head.
You're seeing this here. And I'm seeing this here too.
Yeah,
There's definitely a trade there, I reckon.
Well, I would be looking for that to bounce up to weekly pivot, come back down to where we are now, and then start to look.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yeah, I mean, it would look like sometime around the end of April. Would you say that end of April we might actually start to carve out a bottoming pattern here?
Having a look. Dear, we're that far into the future?
Oh, maybe not that far then. Maybe how many candles did it take for that left shoulder to form? One.
Yeah, let me go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm on a 4-hour chart, mind you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're over here somewhere.
Okay.
So
well, that's only if
the.
I mean, we have to see that neckline tested first. So when the neckline gets tested, we have to start counting after we see the neckline and then the retracement. So we might well have a little while on that. So that looks like next week. That's interesting, because if NFP is bad, we could get a bottoming pattern here, and then all bets are on with the euro.
Yeah, well, if this gets here before the end of the week, which you would think it would, let's say, yeah, probably want to be here somewhere, I'd imagine. Okay, yeah, I'll go with next week. We'll see. But yeah, I'd be willing to have a look at that. But yeah, I've kind of talked myself out of trading the cross at the moment. Wouldn't take much to convince me, though, I must say. But I don't really want to trade it from here. I want to get back down here somewhere. Maybe, I don't know. Don't even like that too much. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan at the moment, mate. Tell you what I do see, and I've only just seen it. It's messy.
Mm.
It's very, very messy, choppy stuff. No, I've got nothing there at the moment. But
Okay.
I totally see that little yawning gap up to there. I might try and work out a way to do it, but it's not here for me at the moment. Aussie is interesting. And we've spoken about this at length as well. You guys will recall that as soon as this happened, and I got short on a smaller time frame, can't remember, it was the hourly, I think it was. Yeah. Got long, sorry, on the smaller time frame. Was it the hourly? Might have been 30-minute. Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, we traded this candle here and got a TP. This was yesterday. That's right. But we traded it before that as well. So I thought we were looking good here when we got exactly what I asked to happen on yesterday's news. I figured that would be a dovish statement from the RBA, and that was the case. But for some reason, or best known to aliens, I think, the Aussie started to rally on the back of that bad or dovish statement. But then the market kind of woke up, I guess, and drove it back down to exactly where I wanted it on this trade line here, or trend line, whatever you want to call it. Got back above it after the consolidation, retested it with this tiny little candle, which I don't trade them normally. It was only about 6 pips. So I placed the order, got slipped, of course, a couple of pips into it. And I was going to take profit at the monthly pivot, but fortunately, I had to go away from the charts, and I set an EA just to take profit at 2/3 of my risk. So I got out of that with a very small win. And then it's all about timing, isn't it? Into the market. And then, of course, after the rest of the day panned out as a bear affair, we then got the news this morning, which was a magnificent couple of numbers on what was it? Retail sales. Can't remember now. Aussie this morning. It was trade balance and retail sales. Yes, trade balance was really, really good, and retail sales was a great number as well. And of course, that's brought the Aussie back into play. But the overriding thing, and the reason I wanted to get long, was because, and I started out saying this. Yeah, we got short here. That's right. I remember that. And again, TP1 only, and that's the nature of the beast at the moment. We're getting. You got to get out of the market very quickly, or so it would appear. This double top or tweezer top or whatever you want to call it on the monthly pivot should have driven the market shorter. Should have, but it didn't. And as soon as it didn't, I start to think, why? Why is that the case? So something else is going on here. And well, at this point in time, it hasn't panned out, but I got bullish as soon as I saw that not take the market down to the support level. This took the market down to support level. That was the dovish statement out of the RBA, and now the good numbers that we've printed on retail sales and the trade balance has brought us back to exactly square one again. So I'm a bull here still. How do I get into this one? It's the same story, you know. We're at resistance here. We've had a big rally throughout the day. There's no way I'm going to enter long here, not on your Nelly. So I've got to have a retracement. Thereafter, maybe we're looking at this trend line as a breakout. I don't know. It's not my favorite scenario, that's for sure. Let's get back down here somewhere, and then we can find something to trade. But I certainly won't be going long from here, although it is my bias. Just don't know. Can't find a way in there at all, and this is the frustrating thing at the moment. On the flip side of that, I was also waiting for the as I say, the flip side, and the flip side would have been had the news not been great this morning, I would have been looking for a lower high here. and that would have suited me for a short. But the news said no. That doesn't mean, however, that if we did get now a lower high in this vicinity, I wouldn't be interested, because we have had this rally, and price is really all about at the moment bouncing off support, bouncing off resistance, bouncing off support. Here we are at resistance again. Why wouldn't I be thinking that? And I am. So Aussie yen, if you like, I'm thinking, okay, hit the resistance level, give me the lower high, the signal that I need, then go short. Aussie
Yeah.
CAD, exactly the
Oh,
same thing.
well.
Sorry, did you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's have a look at this Aussie CAD. I love the CAD at the minute.
Yeah, and that's why yesterday we were talking about this: the beautiful head and shoulders sitting there, the beautiful break of the neckline, the beautiful retest of the neckline, and really that's a trade at the end of the day. But that was on Friday. Don't do it. So here we are again. No lower high. Well, I suppose there is really at the end of the day. There was a lower high, but you can't trade that candle. Now I'm looking for another lower high here. So I'm with you. The CAD's a very, very good commodity at the moment. I would have thought
Yeah.
oil's rallying, and that seems to be on fire. Pardon the pun. But a reversal bar here does look good for a short. I'd have to say Aussie CAD rather.
Yeah.
That's
I love the Canadian dollar. I mean, when you're done with that, I wouldn't mind going a bit more into the CAD.
Yeah, all right. I'll just do dollar yen, and then we'll get into it. Okay, dollar yen, pretty much where I wanted it to be. Well, almost where I wanted it to be. You can see we traded this long. That that in retrospect, that's a pretty cool trade. And right now, I'm thinking potential reversal, or it's going to here, one or the other. And the way I play that is off this beautiful, beautiful trend line. So I'm expecting something to happen here. If we get the break and we hit resistance and get back underneath it, I'm a bear. If we break the highs here and come back and retest that level, then I'm a bull. So one of the two is going to happen probably by the end of the week. Not sure which, of course. If I've got a preference, it's probably short, but I'm not convinced in any way, shape, or form which way this is going to go. I can see a case for both, and I'll be ready for either one should it present. But at the moment, that was the trade, that one there that we took. Unfortunately, I trailed my stop too tight, and well, I didn't really trail it too tight, but the market came back and bit me. So SH1T happens. I've missed that. Missed the cream.
Yeah.
A bit of that going on.
Yeah, always.
Anyway, I guess the analysis is still pretty sharp, and everything's going the way it kind of looks as though it's going to. And if that's the case, we might be looking for a short on this. Maybe even tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you might be right on that, actually.
Look, I'm not convinced of the direction. Actually, I'm really not. I think this can absolutely keep going, but I'm ready to trade it short as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, that's going to be an FP, isn't it? If the NFP numbers come out weaker, but but let's talk about the CAD, because the CAD, I think, is the fascinating and tradable currency currently. And I want to read you a couple of bits and pieces here. So
Sure.
the statement on April the 1st, so a few days ago, 3 days ago, the Polos was talking about the Canadian economy. And just a few little bits and pieces here. He says, although global trade disputes are contributing to a slowdown in exports and business investment, job creation and incomes are rising, especially in the economy's rapidly expanding service sector. And trade growth is slowing. So trade disputes and a shift away from globalization of production are slowing growth in a global trade. Companies used to offshore their production. Now more and more companies are reshoring or nearshoring. And it just gives an explanation. Offshoring companies reduce costs by moving production to lower wage countries. Reshoring, automation, and the rise of wages in countries like China are now encouraging some firms to move production back home. And nearshoring, some firms are locating production closer to their customers. So economies never stand still. In China, for example, globalization has led to a steady increase in wages, and this reduces the incentive for firms in advanced economies to move their production there. Now, I think that's really, really interesting. To maybe show the state of China. You know, where is China sitting right now? Now in Canada, the trade in services is growing. Trade in services has been growing at a much faster pace than goods. Last year, many service sectors saw exports growing at a near double-digit rate or faster, including financial, tourism, telecom, computer information, and intellectual property. Growth in Canada's economy was based on trade in natural resources in its early years, is now driven mainly by service industries. Roughly 80% of Canadians are now employed in services, and the statistics do not fully capture the contribution of services. Trade in services is difficult to track and is probably underestimated. For example, many manufactured goods include a large service component that is buried in the price. By some estimates, as much as 30% of value of goods exports is actually created through services. Now, this is quite an interesting quote as well. Many companies today purchase back office computing services on the cloud. Previously, a company may have invested in equipment and software and hired specialized staff to perform these functions. By purchasing cloud services, the company saves those expenses and boosts its productivity. This is clearly positive for the economy, yet our conventional statistics show a drop in investment and in trade. So, yeah, effectively, he's saying, you know, very, very difficult to unravel the numbers, really, because there's things going on in the background. Uncertainty about global trading rules means some businesses' investments decisions have been scrapped, even in uncertain lifted completely tomorrow. That was badly read. These decisions could not be reversed, and some of the damage done over the past 2 years would remain. Looking ahead, this is the last little bit. Canada's economy has many advantages: a well-educated and diverse workforce that is growing through immigration, a portfolio of established trade agreements, and a solid economic base in natural resources. Canada can build on these strengths by remaining committed to global free trade and encouraging freer trade between provinces and territories, and keeping inflation low, stable, and predictable. We will continue to promote the economic welfare of Canadians. Recent economic data has been generally consistent with our expectations that the period of below potential growth will prove to be temporary. Very, very positive speech by the governor. Now, I want to go on.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad that last little bit was tacked on, because for a minute I was thinking everyone's so happy about the services growing at an exponential rate and the trade dropping, and I'm going, hang on a minute, that doesn't sound like a good premise to build a strong economic future on. But the last little bit then goes on to explain that. So that's
yes,
good.
yes, and when you compare that to some of the other speeches that we've had recently, Draghi wasn't particularly bearish, but by any stretch, not particularly dovish. But certainly the way that Paulos is speaking is probably from a position of greater strength. And as you say, you know, with the oil price increasing, that just adds to the the potential for Canada to grow. Now I want to bring some charts into play, just so everybody can start looking at this, because to my mind, the Canadian dollar looks to me like the trade of the month, because we've got.
We're still on my chart, I think.
We on mine now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is what we have. So US dollar versus the Canadian dollar, a break through this particular area, retest, and it's off. So there was a trade there. That's the first one.
Yep.
Let's keep going down the list. Euro CAD. The euro has started to see some move to the upside against the dollar, but not really continuing against the Canadian dollar. No setup, just a indication that the Canadian dollar is still positive with a stronger euro. This is bucking the trend. Aussie CAD, I think, again, if we compare it to what's happened with the US dollar, looks to me like a potential place that you can trade this to the downside. You know, if we like the Canadian dollar, we were just waiting for some decent numbers from Australia to get this back up again, just so this can be traded. Now, we'd want to wait to see whether this does hold here, because if it holds, that would suggest that tomorrow and beyond, we are looking for downside. Probably not today. It could be, but we'd have to look on at least 4-hour charts to see if there's any type of reversal in this area. Does look like a decent area, as you pointed out, with the neckline of the head and shoulders. The neckline may well be here. We're not 100% sure where the neckline exists. It might well be there, but
mine's the upside. So it's the low before that big bear bar.
This one here.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, could well be there. So it's in this range here, so we'd want to make sure that we saw some reversal signs and signals of reversal before trading it. But again, you know, back to a decent point that we'd want to trade it. Let's continue down the list. I think the CAD yen we were discussing again. You know, CAD yen looked like it was on a potential place of for a reversal, and that's got swallowed up. So we're looking for further moves to the upside now with this breakthrough on the CAD yen. It wasn't there, I don't think. Actually,
you guys were starting to talk about that. I noticed when I had to leave on Monday. What was the conversation, CAD yen? Everyone seemed to be
so one of the guys,
Pedro,
was looking at a short in CAD yen, and we were just discussing the potential ways to trade the short. And if he took the conservative route, then he would have made the trade safe. So he was in on a 4-hour bar. I think he was in on maybe this 4-hour bar. The charts actually look a bit different now for some reason, but I think he was in on one of these 4-hour bars here. And I was saying that actually the charts do look different. Oh no, it was here. Sorry, it was this area here. So there was an area here that he was trading, and I said that there's the two ways you could trade it would be to take profit of the gap, leaving stops where they are, and effectively at least secure a break-even trade would be the conservative way. Or you could wait for the trend line down here to be tested. There are also pivots down here as well. My particular preference would have been to wait for that downside. It would have been a loss in the end, but if you kind of add up the different ways of trading over time, I usually find it's more profitable in the long run to see if you can get a longer move. So it depends which way he would have traded that, but if he's traded the conservative way, then he's not lost anything. And the CAD actually took off from that point. You know, the Canadian dollar had that statement from Polos, and it took off from that point. Retracements have come right back to the trend line, and again provided an area to trade this to the upside. So again, you know, Canada still looks good as a potential trade. CAD Swiss, I also find another interesting one. CAD Swiss, and I find this interesting because we managed to hit these highs here, move to the downside, and then managed to catch a bid just at this low, and it started to move again to the upside. So CAD Swiss looks decent. Now the only one, another point of reference there with that trend line break, looks like that could well hold. CAD Sing, also the same kind of looking chart. Looks like it tried to get back to the downside, but managed to find a base. Probably hasn't come down far enough just yet, but that looks like a potential trade as well. Probably along a trend line along here would be something of interest. And finally, wouldn't mind bringing in the CAD against the pound, because pound CAD, because interestingly with this one, the pound is bucking the trend. So that just goes to show that the strength of the pound today, and it just goes to show what if you can look for trading opportunities for the day, then on a short-term time frame, that the pound certainly looks like the currency to trade. But the other aspect of this is that anybody trading a daily wave rider will know, and I can't really bring the template up because I don't know if there are other people in the room that would be listening. But if you're looking at a daily wave rider, then you will see that the CAD has been against many of these currencies. Super trend is now looking positive for the CAD, and you're just waiting for the pivot step. So into next week, I would suspect that people would be looking for the CAD for trading opportunities. Now, you may be a little bit late in the party, but you are certainly looking at potential setups. And incidentally, there was also a setup on Euro Pound yesterday with this bar here. And as I say, anybody looking at daily wave riders, you should be looking at this, because this is a setup for some downside. It's very low down here, and it wouldn't be my particular appetite to try and trade this. But with potential deals going on with Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May, this would look a lot better if they get a deal, because that is very hugely likely to start to tank to the downside, and then that setup will look pretty good. As I say, it's a little bit low for my taste personally, but there is a daily wave rider setup on Euro Pound from yesterday, and as I say, Canadian dollar. Looking at next week, I think you're going to start getting setups on that as well. So, I just wanted to kind of bring in the point of the statement, and how the statement is starting to match the price action, and or the other way around, and also the fact that the one opportunity that we look like we may get is against the Aussie CAD as this moves back into this area. As I say, if it doesn't break through that area, I think we're looking at downside. Could be as late as next week, but we're certainly looking at downside in Aussie CAD currently.
Yep. Mate, what did he say? I heard you mention it, but I've forgotten what he said about employment numbers.
Let me go back to that. Oh, that was right at the start, wasn't it? He says, although global trade disputes are contributing to a slowdown in exports and business investment, job creation and incomes are rising.
Okay, so we can expect a good number tomorrow, not tomorrow, Friday, on employment figures, because they're coming out on Friday for the CAD. And the economists or forecasters are saying they're not going to improve, saying they're going to remain stable at I would have to say, relatively high number compared to all of the other advanced economies.
Yeah.
5.8%, that's getting pretty high right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's under 4, or Aussies 5, or under 5. Dollars, I mean, America's what, 3.7, 3.9, something like that. So that's kind of getting up there. They really need to improve that, I would have thought. So I'd be looking for that. I'd be looking for that to come down maybe on Friday.
Well, interestingly, you know, you're absolutely right. But actually, if you look at the chart on that, so looking over here, relatively speaking, where the Canadian economy is doing better than it was. If we look at the actual chart of the unemployment numbers, you know, it was right the way up.
There? What's that number there? I can't.
This is 7.7.
7.7, right? Okay.
Yeah, so they are dropping, and it looks like they've dropped fairly significantly. So a decent number again out of Canada. That is going to provide some upside for the Canadian dollar as well. You'd have to say.
Okay. Yeah. Doesn't seem to be too much wrong with it, does there?
No, there doesn't. No, there doesn't. And the good thing about this is, if we are looking at next week at potential entries, then we're going to get the chance to see these numbers before we have to trade it. Now, let's have a quick look into the future. Just seen that some of the European numbers have actually come out fairly well. Spanish services PMI is continuing to move to the upside. Looks like everybody's moving into the service sector. They're looking pretty good. I would have thought the Italian numbers wouldn't necessarily match that. Not sure about French final services PMI, Germany as well. Euro final services PMI could be of interest. Services PMI out of the United Kingdom is very, very important, because we are a service industry. We're a service country. So there's not a great deal there today. I think this could be quite a telling number today, the ADP non-farm employment change, because that could give a soft marker about what they're looking at tomorrow. So if that's a big dip one way or the other, then I think that's going to be of interest. They're looking at ISM.
It will be of extreme interest to see what Friday's number is, and I'm predicting it's going to be 290 or something.
Yeah, you see,
they've got to correct that previous number. surely.
This is it's quite cool to bet on this actually. I quite like it. I'm going to go for something in between the two. So I'm going to look for around about 100, I think. And I think if it is
Oh, yeah?
100, then that's going to be pretty damaging for the dollar, I would have thought.
It
So
is, yeah.
yeah,
Well, it could
I'm
be.
I'm going to
I'm
split the
going
difference.
I'm going 290.
290. Okay.
Yep.
So you're going
Record. Just about.
almost record, almost
Yeah.
record. So you're looking at back in this area here. I mean, to be fair, the last few were like two. That looks like a 300. That's a 300. So yeah, it was only yeah. So you're just looking back to almost back to normality in a lot of ways.
Well, I think if you have a look at the below par figures, they were followed up by a pretty big
Yes.
one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, looking at that, it looks like we could get a bit of a surge. That's going to be a very, very interesting number to watch. It will give
And I'm
a
not suggesting that there's any fudging going on there. I'm just suggesting that it's completely corrupt.
yeah. Well, let's have a look into next week as
Maybe
well. Unless you've got
torture.
anything specific, you got candles you want to look at?
Yeah, look, I just having a look at the 30-minute chart, so we better have a look at those. We've just had new candles. I've really got very little until I hit these retracement levels that I've been talking about. Not that keen on trading the euro or the pound, as I said, but let's take a look at them, see if there's any interest at all. Given that, I think we're pretty much both of the opinion that this does need to bounce. It's on the way to doing that, without question. I think we put on 30 odd pips or something today, a little bit more maybe. No, about 25. Yeah, look, I'd be happy to trade this long if I could see a significant lower high, and at this point in time, that's not there. You've got the reversal bar or the reversal pattern or whatever you want to read into that. It's there on the 30-minute chart. So a pull back to the daily pivot here would be absolutely beautiful. That's what I'd like to see. And if that were the case, and a nice reversal bar here or reversal pattern or whatever, then I think that would be the case. It looks like we're not going to get that opportunity, to be fair. It would be pretty obvious at the moment that this is in a buying mood, or the market's in a buying mood. It's had a consolidation, obviously, through late Asia session, or most of Asia session, actually. This happened. Why did this happen? Wonder. Good question. At that time of day, don't know. But it has happened, and the consolidation suggests that we're going to go higher here before we come backwards. So it's probably no trade for me there on the euro, even if I was keen on trading it. The Aussie, not too much to say about that, really. It's very evident on the chart that this has been a news-driven rally, and we've hit resistance. We've been through 1, 2, 3 lots of resistance. We're now at the fourth lot of resistance for the day. How much resistance do you think we can go through is the question that I would immediately ask myself, and that would stop me straight away from going long here. So again, retracement required. Am I bullish? Yep. But there's no way I'll be jumping in the market here, not at all. Aussie yen, again, yes, I'm a bull on the Aussie, but I'm still very, very conscious of the top of this range. And if I were to see, not this candle, certainly it's going to be too big, but if I were to see, well, what do I need to see? Really, I need to see price come back here again, I guess, and then put in a lower high. If this was to retrace, dramatically in the next 24 minutes, I don't think I'd be trading it, although it's probably an equal high rather than a lower high. So this is going to take time to pan out. That's, of course, a 4-hour chart. The 30-minute chart, well, yeah, look, I'd be okay with it if I got price maybe down to, let me find a support level. There's nothing really strong through here. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not that much of a fan. But if I did see maybe a little bit of a sell, then a lower high here, I'd consider it, but it's not very strong at this point in time. I'd much rather see it break the top of the range break and price come back inside. That really is the best way to trade these scenarios for me. And if that's the case, then I'd get far more interested than I would off the top here. I'd much rather see it break, take out these highs in particular, then get back in here, give me the lower high, and then go short. But that's why there's nothing available for me at the moment, I suppose. This one, Aussie CAD, we've just spoken about that. And look, I would trade that tomorrow probably if this candle was to be exactly as it is now. The issue I would have, if that is the case, and of course I will talk about this tomorrow. Look, I'd be almost willing to take it and take my first profit here at about 0.5 to 1 and then let it run. So I'll definitely be looking at that tomorrow morning, but there's probably going to be a better opportunity here for me. And it's kind of there now with 1.5 hours to go. I would probably look to trade that bar depending on how big it becomes. But if it was as it is now, I'd probably be willing to trade it. Where I put my stop is the issue. Where do you put your stop? I think if I'm prepared to call this the neckline, then probably it's got to go above that. So I'll be looking at maybe a risk of 32 pips, and then I see this, maybe that's the place to put your stop. And then it becomes a poor reward to risk. No, it's not really. Okay. That's interesting. It's a long way for a stop from me on a candle like that, though, I've got to say. Maybe I'll take 2 positions. Maybe I'll take a small percentage on the higher risk. So let's say get our 25 pip stop, something like that. And then we can trade down to here, take profit at a little bit better than 1 to 1, let it run. And if we get taken out, we have our second stop up here. So if you understand what I'm saying, there's 2 positions here. Still short at the same place. 1 stop loss here and 1 stop loss here. So if I get this first up, we get a really good trade. If I get it second up, we've got to do a fair bit of work to break even. That's true, but I still think that's the go. I might consider that. That's 1.5 hours away nearly, so it's a while. But there's no trade there as of this point in time. Dollar yen starting to look good on the 30-minute chart. Let's go back to what we're trying to achieve here. What we're trying to achieve is to get price above that level, then back underneath it. So we're not great in this area, but it is definitely a bounce point. So you've got to be looking at that. And if I look at this, I see a potential reversal situation. I wouldn't trade this, but what I would do is wait for, it doesn't really matter where it bounces, I suppose. There's 2 levels. One's there, and the other's the daily pivot. So if we could drive down to here, then put in a lower high in this area, I think that's probably tradable. It would give you kind of the impression of a head and shoulders as well. So that's what I'll be looking for. Price down to here, say, or here, and then come back and give me a reversal bar in that area, and that would be tradable. But there's nothing there yet. Cable, I don't want to trade. That's pretty much, EuroCAD, we were looking at that, weren't we? Not possible for me to jump in here just yet, but there's definitely some areas of interest. That will be one of them. It's not there yet because that candle hasn't closed. This will be another. And probably this will be another. And that's already interesting. So if we were to, say, hit this trend line and bounce back off it, get back underneath the confluence area, there may be a way in here, but you've got to be very careful trading into, this is the low of the day, something that I don't trade into without taking profit. So probably the best case scenario is not as I've just described it, but break here, find the resistance level, wherever that may be. It's probably there-ish, but I would probably accept there as well. So if it hit there, got back underneath, then retested, that would probably be the way to go on EuroCAD. So yeah, look, mate, nothing to get instantly excited about, but with a wee bit of luck and some nice setups, maybe there's something a bit later, but not just now.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, I'm also of the mind that some waiting needs to be done here. I've got the FTSE in an area of pretty high prices up here. Doesn't look to me like a potential area to go long. The short is difficult because it just keeps on surging forward every time. In fact, let me bring up some pivots here as well. Every time the market attempts to start pushing down again, it just continues to move to the upside, and the move to the upside has been pretty aggressive. So there is a trend line along here, which is going to be that daily pivot. If that trend line gets broken down, then we could be looking at shorts in the market. There's a really nice channel here as well that has moved to the upside. So I suspect, that there are traders watching this particular area for some trades. Just refix this up again. And we potentially have a catalyst as well. Now, we're not going to be meeting. That could take us all the way back down to the gap here. Somewhere about 218 before holding up. Now I like this area. So if you remember 218, this is going to look different on everybody else's chart because we're not looking at the cash. We're looking at the futures here. But so I trade on the futures with this one. So 218, around about 218, 217. Now if I bring this up on a daily chart here, I'm going to bring it clean again and mark off 218. Which is that gap, then you will see that there's this little area of previous resistance. So that could be an area of support. It may be a little lower, but it's going to be somewhere within this range here. I prefer 2700, but if 7200. If 7200 is not going to get seen, then around about the 218, 2700, I think we are looking for the longs in the market, but we need it to come down to here. So the shorts look to me like they could be problematic, and for that reason, I'm probably going to wait until I can get a long setup rather than the short. Of course, this market could turn around from this point and start to drift to the downside, but this is a really strong looking trend. We got really a higher low here, higher high, and we're just going to be looking now to trade the next higher low, which I suspect will be in this area here. After that, we're going to need to see if we can hold on to it, because if things turn out to be positive, then we could be surging through this particular zone right up until the 7500 area. So if it comes back, that's going to be effectively 300 pips to the upside before we are looking to see if the market is to retrace again and hit this particular area. So I am looking for longs. I'm not that keen on trading the short side before the longs. I just like the market just to give me the short side without any argument, and pause where it is. I'm gonna draw up a quick fib as well. I'm going to draw up a couple of fibs actually and just see what where that leads us. That leads us to 7206. So there's a lot in this area now. As I say, we're looking between this point really and 7200, this point here. So somewhere within this zone, we are looking. It could be the higher end of the zone, it could be the lower end of the zone, but somewhere within this zone, I think we are looking for upside. The measured move agrees with it. The gap agrees with it. The daily chart agrees with it. The fib agrees with it. This particular fib of the run agrees with it. Now, I wouldn't mind just also bringing in the fib for March and seeing what that tells us, which is going to be, oh, it's going to be beyond, isn't it? But let's just see what that does say. That's the point where our month starts. Wow. Well, that's even better, isn't it? Because the fib for March is just the close of. It's going to give us the close of the month by the looks of things. So actually, I'm looking for the close of the month. That's starting to look like a really strong level.
You're making a good case for it, aren't you?
Yeah, that looks like a really good level, doesn't it? So we're effectively just looking for a retracement. And as I say, you could trade it, but this is just looking so dangerous. I mean, there's a fair amount of pips to that point, and it is tradable down to that area, but it just looks incredibly dangerous. And you know, given the fact that we've had such a huge surge forward, it looks incredibly dangerous, and there's just no guarantee that this market is going to come back. But if it does, and that's the big thing, if it does, I think we should be really keen on this area. So we're really looking for this point here, and then to pick up. Now, I also want to mention that that May is an incredibly strong month for the FTSE 100. It tends to add between 2 and 3% on average. So given that we April tends to add between 2 and 3% on average, and then it tends to rally right into May. So you know, it's the summertime when things start to get a little bit quieter. But this second quarter of the year, the first 2 quarters of the year do tend to be pretty positive. We have a third quarter which is a little bit softer on the whole, and the fourth quarter numbers are pretty good because of December. Really, December tends to be a really good month. Now, obviously, last December wasn't good at all, so you know we can't completely rely on that as a factor to trade, but we can certainly add to it when we see markets which are going in a specific direction, and the way that these markets are going. It's certainly a huge suggestion that the upside is probably the most attractive, and with no talk of trade wars, I don't know what's going on with that. You know, the news seems to have dried up.
No, they were talking about it. Where did I see that? Probably on Forex Factory. They were talking about it in their little news column that it appeared. Who was talking about this? FX, whoever FX Macro is. I've got no idea who that is, but breaking top US and Chinese officials have resolved most of the issues standing in the way of a deal to end their long-running trade dispute. Top US and Chinese officials have resolved most of the issues standing in the way of a deal to end their long-running trade dispute. It doesn't really say too much, to be fair, but who FX Macro is, I've got no idea, and where that news is coming from, I've got no idea either.
Yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? Because I don't see any established news releases suggesting the same thing.
No.
I am going to have a quick look to see if they're reporting anything on.
Oh, here's a CNBC one. 5 hours ago, American and Chinese officials negotiating a trade deal have resolved most. This is where he's got it from.
Oh, okay.
Financial Beijing wants Washington to remove existing US tariffs on Chinese goods. Well, blah, 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 we all know that. 90%, they're saying. They're 90% there.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it's interesting because I suppose until it's done, it's not done. But
that's right.
But that's enough to buoy the market, and that's probably you know enough that's seen us moving in the direction that we're moving in. But that just makes me even more keen to want to get to the upside. And the question is, what's going to bring it down here? You know, I suppose we really need those numbers from America to be poor, just to give us the opportunity to get into this market, because this is where indicators just get completely swept aside. You know, indicators do not work in high volatility environments, you know, or low volatility environments. In actual fact, because the lack of volatility is moving the market in one direction. So when you kind of see this, it certainly doesn't suggest that that the market is coming down anytime soon, and all the indicators just embed way beyond their range areas, and just become a little bit false and difficult to read. So
yeah, it's
where's
like
the profit taking?
the robot from lost in space, isn't it? This does not compute.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we can't really do too much, but continue to read the moves, and the moves, as I say, at this particular point are for further upside. But I'm just a little bit tentative to try and enter the market when it's so overblown here, because the issue is, Julian says this, and he's absolutely right on it. If the market is long in a aggressive bull run, just buy it, and I agree with that. The problem with it is that when you get in a really aggressive bull run, the next potential move can be so aggressive to the downside, you don't have a chance to blink, and this is what happened here. So we had a really aggressive move to the upside, which took all of 121 bars on the hour by the looks of things. So maybe what does that make it? A few days, maybe a week or so, and then within a day, it just scraped itself all the way back to where it originally came from, because the indicators just became so overblown, and the excitement was just so evident that it just couldn't hold up anymore. It just popped. The excitement just popped at this point and came down. The only caveat to that in this particular scenario and situation is that the area along here has had enough tests now to suggest that it's probably less likely to give way. And as it pushed back down again with this really aggressive bar, it managed to create a bottom down here and hold. And now really the next potential move really is for a breakout. That's really what this is telling us. So all I'm looking for is one more dip. Create that dip and then go, because this is starting to really wind up for a significant move back to the highs again. So we just got to wait it out, mate. But hopefully we get our price. We're certainly looking for longs, but hopefully we get our price, because the last thing I will be doing is getting overexcited and entering this market without a decent dip in my favor, so I can get a decent price.
Yeah, we're both talking the same language. I think we're just waiting for the setup, and there's no point forcing it. For me, it's just wait, and if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, then guess what? There's always next week or tomorrow.
That's the real key with it, isn't there? Is that it may not come on this particular run, but there will be an opportunity. I mean, what could happen here is that, and this is the thing that everybody needs to be aware of. The current price that we have on offer is this 73.20 ish. That's the current price we have on offer. The price that I want is more like 72.20. So I want a 100 pip dip and then look for the longs. However, if this is all that was ever on offer, we're not probably going to miss this opportunity. We may, but what is much more likely to happen is that the market does take off at this particular point, and then because this area is so significant, we're looking at a weekly area here. So there's a weekly trend line to the downside, but because that area is so significant, what we're looking for is for that area to get retested, which means that you're going to get the same price, but rather than be trying to trade the breakout, which could fail, we're now looking for price to prove that it's broken out and then come back and give us that higher low. So that at that point that we can look to trade that to the upside. So we've really got two options. We either let it go and try and trade it as it comes back, or we see if it comes back first and then try and trade it through. And at that point, we are looking to trade it through. We're not going to be too worried if it has anything false in this area, because we just make sure our stops are at break even, and then we're not too worried. And also, if it is to break through later, then what can happen is it still comes back and retests, and rather than this being a point that we try and take profit here, what we would look to do is see if we can get in here, let it break out. At this point, we add, and then we see if we can get going. So that's the
second phase is always the best, always.
Yes, absolutely, and that's really what we're after, isn't it? To see if we can get that second phase, and that's an Elliott wave rule as well, isn't it, mate? As far as I'm aware, I'm not much of an Elliott Waves
I don't know,
aficionado.
mate. Who do you play for?
You don't hear that much about Elliott Waves anymore. Oh, before we
No,
go,
you don't.
actually, before we go, talking of things that you don't hear of very often, look at this. Where are you? There you are.
Whoa,
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
We know what that is?
Is that the euro?
No. What's our favourite alternative thing to look at every now and again?
Oh, is that Bitcoin?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Crack, eh?
Yes, and I think this is starting to get fascinating. I mean, it is the 5,000 handle that needs to get broken, because when we look
Oh,
at
is
this,
that a daily chart?
that was a daily chart, yeah.
Wow.
Now this is the telling part. This is the weekly.
Mm.
So
Wow.
Bitcoin is currently
On a tear.
it's attempting to get above this particular trend line. And if we compare this to the FTSE, same sort of thing. Gets above the level, draws back to the level, and then we're looking for longs in Bitcoin as well. So yeah, looks like this area did prove to be a low. Now we don't know if it's the low, but certainly right now it's proving to be a low. Now I'm just going to bring in the measured move here. It's not quite done yet. It's not too far off. The measured move brings us to 5,300. So it looks like it could come up a little bit further. It closes up here. Then we're looking for the retracement to look for a long in Bitcoin. So yeah, looks like Bitcoin traders are going to be much happier. As I say,
It looks that way. I thought you were looking at a 5-minute chart on the euro for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, I know, crazy stuff, right? That was a daily chart, so something's going on. And I did try and look at the news, and all I could find was that Bitcoin surged past 4,000. It's like, well, yeah, I saw that.
Cool. So are you in?
No, I'm not in, because I think we need to see the retracement. I mean,
Yeah,
to be
you're right.
honest, I don't know whether I would trade Bitcoin, but I look at it for my brother's sake, really. I want to see this start to move back to the upside as well. Now there are
So
experts.
he can move back into his house, okay?
Yeah, he's out of the tent in my backyard, and
Cool.
that's the only reason I look at it. I want him gone.
I shouldn't laugh. Poor people who actually were into Bitcoin late. It's a terrible thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't that he was in late; he was in early, but he didn't take his profit. And he's actually not in Bitcoin; he's in XRP, and his XRP. I think it was. Let me just see where it was. He was in. I think it was somewhere around about. I've got a feeling he's about there. So he's got a long way to travel, but yeah, I've got a feeling he's still in. That was the last time he took a trade in it, and he did see, and he was in at this point. So he saw all this happen, and then come all the way back down again. Stop there. Didn't want to take profit.
Nothing off. Nothing at all.
No, he didn't take anything. Nah.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, he's not a trader. I mean, this is the thing, he's kind of playing with something that that he's trying to learn off his own back, which is not an awful way to try and learn, but it is if you run out of funds, which is what can happen.
Yeah,
So
it can be a hard way. Yeah.
yes, absolutely, and this is where it does start to take casualties. But what he has done is held on, because I suppose he was in that camp that it got down so far that it was worth taking the risk to hold on now. But what I'm hoping is that he takes profit at the first potential opportunity and doesn't try and play it again, because he's got this belief that it's going to go right back to the moon again and beyond, which it could. But I think if you've had a scare like this, you need to regroup. And try and clear your head, because I don't think continuing to do that is a good idea. And XRP, if XRP gets through this particular point, there's every chance it gets back to the midpoint. But we got to see that happen. And also, he's in Ethereum. He's not trading Bitcoin, but he's also in Ethereum. But all of them surged to the upside. So there was something in the crypto world yesterday that
something's happened.
that created this. I'm not aware of it because I don't know where
I've
you
got no
get the
idea what
information
drives it.
from.
No idea what drives it.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Because there's lots of people talking about this stuff, but there's got to be a trustworthy source that you go with, to get it. Now, there are some reliable news outlets which do report on it, and they're probably on top of it. But I don't really give them that much time. But maybe I'll start looking.
Yeah, I haven't got enough time.
Yeah, there's actually I've just found a decent report. Maybe we'll get to this tomorrow, because I have actually just found a pretty decent report that I could potentially look at and trust. So yeah, maybe we'll talk
I'll look
a little
at the
bit more
recording on Friday, because I won't be here tomorrow.
Oh yeah, you're not in. Okay, well that's good. That gives me plenty to talk about. All right, mate. Well, let's push off. Oh, sorry, Ben. I've just seen your one single anonymous investor made this surge to Bitcoin. Ah, really? Really?
Oh, yeah.
Pump and dump. Yeah, but who was it? Who was it? Is it scam trading, or is it like JP Morgan or something? Because it could be. It could be. I mean, one anonymous investor. I suppose it can't be JP Morgan, actually, could it? Because they can't be anonymous.
That bloody Paul Bottrell again.
Well, the pump and dump. Well, it could be Richard Branson as well. I don't think he would have to. I don't think he would have to declare it, would he? I don't know. Some of these companies have to, don't they? The banks couldn't just buy it, but anonymous investor. There has been a single order that has been algorithmically managed across these 3 venues. Around 20,000 Bitcoin from. Oh, really? Well done, mate. Well done. Good mining. Nice. Let's stay on top of this story then. We're going to talk more Bitcoin tomorrow then. And I will.
This is setting up for a great sell. Awesome. Love
it. Or is it? Or is it? This is the thing. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap it here. Good day. And we are waiting it out.
Yeah, look, it's totally boring this week, really. At the end of the day, news is driving the market. There's no question about that. Certainly on the Aussie pairs, and just got to be patient. Yep.
Krista's saying it's those bloody twins from Facebook, and I think there's actually some truth in that, because I just read something about some twins, but I don't know who they are, so I'll have to look into that.
Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah.
Or Dumb and Dumber.
Well, let's continue to be patient anyway, guys. Bring your charts tomorrow. Let's have a look at anything that you potentially want to trade. I still think those Canadian trades could be some decent opportunities. I'm looking at the Aussie CAD with close attention, but bring anything that you can tomorrow, and we'll have a decent end to the week of analysis at least. We will miss you tomorrow, mate, but have a great day. I know.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah,
I'm being mentored tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, won't be here. Sorry.
Mentored on how to help the planet, which is great stuff.
That's
okay, mate. Exactly. That's okay, Christo. We're in tomorrow at 7:35 UK, which is 2:35 AM Singapore, and we will be joined again by Jeff next Monday, but I will be in tomorrow as normal.
I'm going to have to work out that time as well. We've got daylight saving switch off.
Oh no!
So I could be up at 3 in the morning for all I know. No, it won't be that bad.
Do your clocks go forward or back?
Oh, bugger if I know. They just change.
They just change. All right, well, hopefully I'll see you on Monday.
This one's backwards. So yeah, it'll be an hour later for me.
Oh no, it's going backwards. Oh, okay. So you're back to where we were, basically.
Yeah, back to where we were.
Okay, yeah. Fine. All right. Well, that's less confusing at least.
You think?
Just adapters. All right, man. We'll have a good day, and everyone else have a good day. We will see you tomorrow. Same trade time, same trade channel. We'll see Jeff next Monday, and have a great weekend, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Have fun, everyone.